This is E&P Reports, a vodcast from Editor and Publisher magazine, the authoritative voice of news media since 1884, serving newspapers, broadcast, digital, and all forms of news publishing.
Greetings once again, Mike Blinder, publisher, E&P Magazine. As always, we kick off the program by urging those that listen on various podcast platforms to please follow this show. Those that choose to watch the video version on our YouTube channel, by all means, hit that subscribe button. Both ways, you should get updates each and every time we upload a new episode of this weekly vodcast series we dedicate to news publishing we call E&P Reports. This is a new episode, but with some old friends. Sara April, welcome to the program. I'm so glad you're here.
Morning. Great to be here, Mike.
And John Thomas Cribb. John, I can just call you John, or do I have to throw the Thomas in the middle?
You know, at this point, I think you can just call me John.
There you go. We have a tradition here on the show you may be aware of, since we're always reporting on AI's impact on the industry. We no longer troll you on LinkedIn or look at your About You page. We go right to the horse's mouth. We go to ChatGPT and ask it about you, the guest, and I'll read you what it says and you tell us how it did. Sara, you're first. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, it's ChatGPT says you're president of Dirks, Essen April, a leading merger and acquisition firm specializing in the U.S. newspaper industry. You joined the firm 2006 after serving as director of operations for Homeworks Media Group in Boston, which had specialty magazines. You became a partner in 2018 at Dirks Essen. That's thus adding the name. And there you go. Sara, I did not know this. You graduated cum laude from my alma mater, George Washington University. I did not know you and I both went to GW.
Yep. And I studied journalism there. So that's what my degree was in.
Mine's in marine biology, and I became a disc jockey at WEA.
I think I'm more adjacent to my degree then, Mike.
Yeah, I totally went in another direction. John, you're a director of Cribb Associates, a prominent merger and acquisition firm specializing in the newspaper industry. There you go. That's the parallel here. You joined the firm in 2015, bringing with you extensive experience from previous roles in the publishing sector. Prior to this, you served as the publisher for the Red Lodge and Columbus newspapers in Montana, held various group responsibilities for Yellowstone newspapers. Before becoming a publisher, John worked as a newspaper advertising sales rep for Hagedorn. I didn't know you worked for Hagedorn. You were up there?
Yep.
I always, I love Hagedorn. They were a client of mine. They had that beautiful hotel on the lake.
Still do. Mm-hmm. Yep, in Coeur d'Alene.
And the biggest wine list I have ever seen in my life. If anyone wants to go visit Coeur d'Alene, you got to go up to the restaurant on the roof there. Anyway, we're not here to discuss all that. We're here to talk about a very active 2024, guys, in mergers and acquisitions, and get your thoughts on why all this is happening. Give some advice to local news publishers on where they may stand if they're thinking of buying or selling, and more importantly, get you guys to give some prognostications for the future. But I'm going to make our audience hang in there, because we'll get to all that right after this.
This episode of E&P Reports is exclusively sponsored by Blocks Digital, formerly Town News. Even though the name has changed, their commitment to the media industry is as strong as ever. Blocks Digital is now even better positioned to deliver integrated solutions like content management, audience development, advertising revenue, video management, and more. Join the over 2,000 news publishers worldwide that power their ongoing digital transformation with Blocks Digital, serving over 141 million monthly users who view over 6.5 billion pages of content each year. You can trust Blocks Digital to empower you, to connect you at scale with the community you need to reach. Blocks Digital, formerly Town News, now reimagined to help meet the news publishing challenges of tomorrow and beyond. Learn more at blocksdigital.com.
All right, I'll throw this out to both of you. Let's talk about trends and valuations, guys. What are the current trends in media valuations, particularly for the local news organizations? And how are these factors driving the values? Are they going up or down? Which one of you wants to take this one?
I'll go ahead on this one, Mike. John and I talked about this just a little while ago this morning. We're seeing the valuations hold pretty steady since we've come out of COVID. The valuations in 2024 were pretty consistent with 2023, and I think that's going to continue going into this next year. And when a paper is embedded in its local community, when it has maintained that local franchise, that's what drives the valuation to be as high as it can be.
To both of you, is this digital wacky world and the transformation and building subscription models and first party data, is that impacting values right now?
Yeah, I'll jump in and say, it really depends. It depends on the individual buyers. A lot of the buyers out there, they want to see some,
Hmm.
progress in the digital space, but it's very likely that they have their own plans
Right.
and, they want to implement their game plan. So the digital space is, as far as value goes, it's kind of a non-starter. It needs to be there. You need to be doing something in that space.
Hmm.
But whatever you're doing is just as likely to be undone by a new owner as it is to be implemented.
Yeah, it really varies by the prospective buyer. Some are looking to have, a certain amount of digital subscription to print subscription. Some of them look at that ratio as sort of a requirement of if they're going to even pursue the opportunity. Others look at, if there's opportunity there, that's, they know that they have their own mojo that they can put into place to bring that digital revenue online. So it varies by the prospective buyer of if more or less digital conversion is more or less valuable.
All right, let's shift gears and find out who the heck the buyers are. Are they private equity? Are they local entrepreneurs? Are they
Mm.
larger conglomerates? Are they all of the above? Which one wants to take this one?
Go
John,
ahead,
go for
Sarah.
it. Okay. All right. I'm going in. It's a little bit all of the above, Mike. Last year, the largest acquirer, we all saw the headlines, was Carpenter Media Group. So that's now a large group. Carpenter did the majority of the deals, and that follows a trend that we've seen of there being a single most acquisition minded buyer each year. Before Todd Carpenter, it was Cherry Road Media. We've seen Paxton Media, we've seen Adams Publishing Group. There's always one company that seems to really take the most deals in a particular year, and then it shifts. Then they go into the mode of absorbing those operations, and another company comes up to the forefront and does the majority of the deals. So last year was Carpenter. Private equity and more of those investment-based firms, they're still active in the space. They're still looking at things. They didn't make the majority of headlines last year. And then local independents and the strategic buyers buying a paper within a county or two away of their existing operations. That's still a driving sector of buyers as well.
John, I assume you concur with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, all of the above. That's
Mhm.
exactly my thoughts as well.
All right, so what about sellers? I mean, is it just because you can't get the kids into the business, or revenue is so hard to find, or it's just too competitive? I mean, what are you seeing as the motivation for someone to sell to a Todd Carpenter or a Jerry Goldman? I mean,
Mhm.
what is it one flavor, or is it all of the above? Again, either one of you.
Sure, I'll jump in. It's all of the above, and one of the great things about what Sarah and I get to do every day is we get to talk to these newspaper owners and
Mhm.
and really hear their needs and understand what their challenges are, and then find a solution for them.
Yeah.
And it certainly is, oftentimes it's retirement without a next
Mhm.
generation to take over the business, or the business just has been in decline, and it's time to find a new owner and keep
Mhm.
the newspapers going.
Mhm.
It can be anything and everything, and it really is one of the more rewarding parts of what Sarah and I get to do on a daily basis is
Yeah.
have those conversations and figure out the solutions for people.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah, the motivations they're across the board. The other area where you see activity is if it's a company that's just looking to rebalance their portfolio. So maybe they want to, get out of certain regions that they're in and then redeploy that capital to get bigger in other regions. Rebalancing the portfolio is another, when groups and larger companies divest properties, that can be to your point, Mike, to reinvest in other opportunities.
What I hear,
One example for that is we sold the Dirks family newspapers a couple of years ago, and that was, a family that just decided, okay, newspapers are no longer our future, and they just pivoted. They transitioned their entire portfolio into light manufacturing and went on their way. And very, very happy for them. They seem to be doing great, and it was a great decision for them.
it's funny, they were my client for 10 years. I went to all those Dirks properties. What I hear when I talk to the buyers, I hear scale, 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 scale. In other words, if it fits into my model, like with Jeremy, there's a lot of tech behind that. I really think and I think Carpenter Media is always, Scott, I've known Scott for decades. He's definitely into moving things forward into a new level with, the digital. Is that what is it always about just getting that piece of the jigsaw puzzle to fit? And is that like kind of a misconception when a seller says, I've got this great operation, but it doesn't fit somewhere, you got to retrain them? What do you think, Sara? Is this one of the challenges?
It is a challenge. If there's a really strong operation, but they do not have any acquisition minded companies around them, that can be a really challenging operation to sell. If they're surrounded by, one of the big public companies that's just not in buying mode, it's very difficult to sell that company, no matter how successful it is or how strong a performer it is. If there is not a strategic buyer, it's a large barrier.
I bet, John, you must concur with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it can be a huge challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's frustrating because you see these companies that are operating, they're profitable, they've got strong revenue, they're relevant in their community, and they're ready to retire. And sometimes, when you can't find, I think that's probably one of the most difficult things for John and I in our work is when you can't find that solution for a seller. And it's rare, but it does happen. And you have to just go deep and you have to go beyond the strategic buyers. You have to start to look inside that community to find another local business that might be interested in the paper or a community minded group. You have to dig a lot deeper to find that solution for the seller.
There's a question I was going to ask, but I'm not even sure if it exists. This uncertain economic climate. There are some saying that the economy is on fire right now. But for some reason, due to inflationary pressures, it's not trickling down to a certain segment of our population. Is that impacting this? Because it seems to me business is strong right now. I got to wait in line on a Tuesday night to get into a restaurant, at least here in the greater Nashville area. Lines are backed up. We had a good Christmas. I mean, is there an economic malaise, or is that just something that's not impacting the market now? And I'll throw that one at John. What do you think, John?
Yeah. The short answer is no. There's really not been an economic impact. We're stable. The COVID years that we slowed down, and every segment of acquisitions slowed down during that period. That was industry and countrywide. But since then, 2023, 24, now into 25, it sure looks like we're just stable and we're just plugging along, which is good news.
I mean, Sara, you agree, right? I mean, even Gordon Borrell is showing positive outlook for advertising in the future. Subscriptions are growing. I mean, at a lot of models. So is it really a healthy economic climate now, in your opinion?
It hasn't. I think the economic climate has not affected deal flow. We had, it was it was strong last year, and it continues to be strong going into 2025.
All right, I'm going to hit you now with that futuristic look. I'll start with John. What are the biggest opportunities for the future of local media companies to increase their value? Maybe they're not ready to sell yet, but if you were back in the chair, and you've been there, John, what would you be doing today if you were saying, yeah, I'm going to flip this puppy in about 3 or 4 years? What would you be working on now to prepare for that future sale?
Sure. Easiest and most simple answer is clean up your financials. And that seems very simple, but GAAP is king. You have to have very clean financials, both to properly operate your business. It's crucial to actually have financials that you understand and can make decisions on. But then when you go to that next step, go to prepare for a sale, clean financials are crucial. And again, it seems simple, but it's so important. Beyond that, just keep doing what you're doing. Make sure that you are crucial to your community, and safeguard, that legacy that you have within your community. That's
Sarah?
really simple.
Mhm.
Sarah, same question.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with what John said. And maintaining top line revenue is really important. So much of valuations today are, and how buyers are looking at operations is focused on that top line revenue versus your profitability number. Different companies have their own expense structures, and when
Right.
they look at an acquisition, they layer their own expense structure in. So that's why it's so important to just keep an eye on maintaining that top line revenue, and stay relevant in your community. That's so important.
Both of you um, have to educate the seller or just educate a local media company on what's working and not working. I'm sure because you hear every story. I bet they could run a reality TV show about your lives because you're hearing so much from these families and these local publishers. And I'm asked constantly, whenever I'm on the stump or I'm speaking at a state association, what's the secret formula? What is the secret formula to new sustainability? And my answer, and I'm going to get both of your opinion on this, just do your job. The winners I'm seeing now, as John just said, are doing great local storytelling and becoming part of their communities. Let me start with you, Sarah. Do you agree with that? Am I
I
giving bad
do.
advice? Go ahead.
No. Do your job, and there's no room for complacency here. You have to work at this, where the news business, 30 years ago, it sort of ran itself, right? You
Okay.
were already, you had the audience, you had the advertiser roster. Today, you have to work to maintain that every day with your solid content, with your audience engagement, with your advertising staff, being in front of that local business community. So I think do your job and be visible, and don't be complacent.
John, same question.
Completely agree with all of that. And I would just add, find and retain good people. And I know that is a huge challenge in our
Yeah.
industry right now, but find them and keep them. Just find a way to keep them. And
Yeah.
those people, have them do their job.
Yeah.
That's the best advice that, to your point earlier, Mike, the companies out there that are doing really well right now, it's because they have good people that are doing their jobs.
Hmm.
It's really that simple.
Yeah, it's no secret sauce. It's just,
No
blocking and
secret
tackling.
sauce.
No secret sauce. John Thomas Cribb, of Cribb and Associates, thank you so much for your time. I know it's going to be a busy year for you, and of course, we'll be publishing your successes and keeping track of the mergers and acquisitions you handle. And Sara April, president of Dirks, Van Essen and April, we appreciate your time as well. Please keep us up to date on the comings and goings of the buy-sell world, and so we can inform our audience of that as well. Thank you both for
Will
your
do.
time.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for everything you do for the industry too.
Yes, thank you, Mike.